Kia ora and welcome to this video presentation on Advanced APA Referencing, 7th edition. The focus of this workshop is to take a further step in referencing and to build on your knowledge from the first introductory workshop. We will cover refreshing the basics, how to reference other formats like dictionaries, online encyclopedias, newspapers, and images. We will then look at how to solve tricky references, for example, when you have two of the same date and author. To refresh, in the introductory session, we learnt that titles of books, web pages, and the names of journals are written in italics. Titles are written in sentence case, for example, Cultural Safety in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Cultural gets a capital C because it's the first letter of the first word, and then Aotearoa, New Zealand are proper nouns, so they would receive capital letters also. When we have one author, in our in-text citation, we just need to record their surname and the date of publication. In our reference list, we put the full details, the author's surname, first initial, date, title, and publisher. When we have two authors, we have to record both their surnames in our in-text citation along with the publication date. If we are putting them in brackets, we use the ampersand symbol. However, if we are mentioning them in our sentence, for example, Cotterill and Morris, that is called putting them in the narrative. And in that case, outside of brackets, we separate the names with AND. Again, in our reference list, we put the full details, both authors' surnames and first initials, the date, the title, and the publisher. When we have three or more authors, to save space in the assignment, we only have to include the first author's surname. After that, we put et al. Full stop. Et al. Is a Latin abbreviation meaning and others. This indicates to your marker that there are others attached to this reference, but to save space, we are just keeping the surname of the first author listed. In our reference list entry, we must list all of the authors involved with that piece of work and their initials, then the date, the title, and the publisher. Tip: if you have a web page with a personal author and a reviewer, we only record the author as they created the work. For example, on screen we have Healthline, neck pain, symptoms, causes, and how to treat it. In the image on screen, we can see that this was medically reviewed by Erica Ramirez, but it was written by Anne Petrangelo. In this instance, we would record the author as Anne Petrangelo, as the reviewer only reviews and does not write, so they are not recorded. Another tip: if the web page says last reviewed and then has a date, we are unable to use that date. If the website has a copyright date, we are unable to use that date also. If the web page says last updated and then provides a date, that date is okay to use. If there is no suitable date or no date at all, we can indicate this by using n.d. in brackets where we would put the date. Chapter in an edited book. If you are using a chapter from an edited book, you need to include in your reference the author of the chapter you're using, the name of that chapter, the author's name, the book name, the edition, and the page range of that chapter. For example, the book on screen is Cultural Safety in Aotearoa, New Zealand, 2nd edition, edited by Diane Wepper. If we were to use the third chapter, which is Cultural Safety by Elaine Paps and spanning from page 36 to 48, we would need to record the following: Paps, E, to acknowledge our author, Elaine Paps. 2015, which is the date of the book's publication. Cultural Safety, which is the name of the chapter. Then we put the word in and we list the editor by first initial first, in this case d.wepper, and then in brackets ed full stop close brackets to indicate that Diane Wepper is our editor. We then put the title of the book in italics, Cultural Safety in Aotearoa New Zealand, and in brackets we are including that this is the second edition and that the page range is from 36 to 48. We then finish off with the publisher of this book, which is Cambridge University Press. If we are using multiple chapters from an edited book, each chapter used must have its own reference list entry. This is so that we can credit the author of each chapter that we used. For example, the Elaine Papps references on screen. If we also used a chapter by Banks and Kelly titled The Cultural Safety and the Nursing Council of New Zealand, we would have to include that chapter, those authors, and that page range also. Referencing images from a web page. In your assignment, an image you use must be presented in the following format. Above the image, we must have figure in bold and then the number. If it's the first image in your assignment, it would be figure 1. If it was the second, figure 2, and so on. Underneath that, we put the title in italics and all words are in title case. If the image doesn't have a title, you can give it one by just using a brief description. Underneath the image, we still give an in-text citation. We credit the author and the year in brackets. To refer to this image in your assignment, you can say as shown in figure 1. To do a reference list entry for this image, it's similar to doing a web page. For example, we are listing the author, in this case, National Foundation for Infectious Diseases. We then have the date, the title of the web page, and then in square brackets, the word image with a capital I, just to confirm that we are referencing the image from this web page. We have then finished off with a link to the web page. If it is your own image, you can use image supplied by author in brackets as your in-text citation under the image and leave it off your reference list. A newspaper online. To reference a newspaper online, we want to start with the author, in this case, Michael Morra. So Morra, M, full stop, would be our author. We then have the date, 2024, September 27th. The title is in normal case, primary school principal responds to school attendance, teacher only day crackdown. We then put the title of the newspaper, New Zealand Herald. As this is the name of the paper, New Zealand and Herald are picking up capital first letters. We then finish off with a link to the article. To mention this in text, we would say according to Morra, 2024, or we could just put Morra, 2024 in brackets at the end of our sentence. An online dictionary. A common online dictionary we see referenced is Te Aka, the Māori English, English Māori Dictionary and Index. This was created by John C. Moorfield, as you can see on screen. This means we would credit him as our author. We would start with Moorfield, J. C. We don't have a date for when this explanation of this word was uploaded, so we would indicate this by putting n.d. We then put the name of the word, mā tauranga in this case. Then we would put in and put the dictionary's full name in italics, Te Aka Māori English, English Māori Dictionary and Index. Given this information is likely to change, as someone could update it, we would put retrieved March 6, 2025 from and then provide the link. For our in-text citation, we are using Moorfield n.d. In Encyclopaedia Online, the most common encyclopedia online we get in referencing is Te Ara, the Encyclopedia of New Zealand. On screen, you can see that we are looking at the story, Te Ao Marama and the Natural World, and we are on part 4 specifically, the importance of the land. Again, we're going to start with our author, Royal, T. space A. space C. We have a date on screen, published 24th of September 2007, so we are going to include 2007, September 24. Our title is Te Ao Marama, the Natural World, and our subtitle is The Importance of the Land. To indicate our subtitle, we have used a semicolon, and we have capitalized the first letter of the subtitle. We then put in the encyclopedia's full name in italics, Te Ara, the Encyclopedia of New Zealand. We then finish off with the link. Again, as an in-text citation, we would be using the surname, Royal, and the year. Solving tricky problems. Oftentimes, you may have more than one work from the same author, for example, different pages of the same website. They might have completely different dates, different months, might have the same dates, or both have no dates. Confusion can be caused if multiple works are cited in an assignment with the same author and date, as the reader marker cannot identify from which source you obtained your information. Let's take a look. In this case, we have 2 web pages from the Ministry of Health, Manatu Hauora. One is about employee benefits, the other is about studying nursing. If we were to do an in-text citation for both of these, we would put the author and the year. That is Ministry of Health, Manatu Hauora. In this case, studying nursing is from 2024 and employee benefits is from 2023. So that poses no issue, as we can tell both of those in-text citations apart. However, in this example, we have 2 pages from Health New Zealand Te Whatu Ora. One is titled Why Immunise, the other is Rural Health. As you can see on screen, both of them are from 2025. However, one was in March and the other came in August. If we were to do an in-text citation, the in-text for both of these references would be the exact same. Health New Zealand Te Whatu Ora 2025. This can cause our marker confusion. In this case, we need to make one of these 2025A and the other 2025B. The way that we decide which one is A and which one is B is purely by oldest to newest. Why Immunised was done in March and Rural Health was done in August. This means that the Why Immunised page would be 2025A and the Rural Health page would be 2025B. It's important to remember that if we make one of these A and the other B in our in-text citation, we must also reflect this in our reference list so that they match. Sometimes you may have 2 references from the same author and both have no date. On screen we have Healthify He Puna Waiora. One page is glandular fever, the other is mumps. Both of these have no date attached to them, and this has been indicated with N.D. However, both of them will have the same in-text citation, Healthify He Puna Waiora N.D. In this case, again, we need to make one N.D.-A and the other N.D.-B to differentiate. Without knowing what came first, this time we will go by alphabetical order. Because G for glandular fever comes before M for mumps in the alphabet, our glandular fever page will become Healthify He Puna Waiora N.D.-A, and the mumps page will become Healthify He Puna Waiora N.D.-B. If we are doing this in our in-text citation, we need to reflect this in our reference list entry. Secondary citations. A secondary citation is when you want to use information from a source that you didn't read yourself, but you found it mentioned in another source that you did read. For example, you're reading a book by Smith from 2020. In that book, Smith talks about a study that was done by Jones in 2015. You haven't read Jones' 2015 study yourself, only what Smith said about it. So if you want to mention Jones' 2015 in your work, it's called a secondary citation. In text, you could say something like, a study of 500 participants showed, and then in brackets, you could credit Jones, 2015, and then put as cited in Smith, 2020. This way we are crediting Jones's work in 2015, but also letting our marker know that we've only seen this work as cited in Smith from 2020. In the reference list, we only need to include the details for Smith's work because that's the only one we actually read. Personal communication. Personal communication is information you might have received or collected to use with consent, which is not published, so your marker cannot access. For example, you may have contacted someone for information or received information via email or korero. To reflect this, in text, if we put the person in the narrative, we can include their first initial and a full stop and then their surname. D. Ramaka. In brackets, we can clarify that this was personal communication and then include the month, day, and year that this happened. For example, D. Ramaka, brackets, personal communication, August 2, 2025, commented in his interview. Or you can choose to include the full in-text citation in brackets at the end of the sentence. For this one, no reference list entry is required because the information is unpublished. Just a reminder that quick guides for referencing are digitally available on the library homepage, toiahomai.mykoha.co.nz, or you can go through the Toiahomai hub page and click on Library. Under Referencing and Citing, you will see all of our available information. This link contains our YouTube channel videos for extra assistance with referencing. Printed copies of our quick guides are freely available in the library spaces.